If you're planning a tile project, you're going to be installing tile over a framed floor or framed walls, and you're going to be cutting cement board, then stay tuned because you're definitely going to want to see this video. What's going on, folks? Ken here with Renos for Pros and Joes, and in this video we're going to be discussing and demonstrating how to cut cement backer board without dust. Now, this is a common question or issue that comes up, particularly if you're going to be installing tile over a subfloor or a framed wall, which means your floor or your walls are wood. Cement backer board is the go-to product and has been over the years to use as a substrate or underlayment when you're going to be installing porcelain, ceramic, or even a natural stone. It gives a good base for the tile to be able to adhere to when you've coupled it with the thin set. The goal overall is to make the least amount of dust possible. We're going to cover 4 different ways, and some are easier than others and some produce more dust than others. So we'll kind of work through each one. As I said, we are going to be cutting with each one of these 4 tools today, and you will be able to see for yourself the level of difficulty involved. Let me quickly grab a piece of the backer board where I tell you a little bit more about that. All right, so this is a piece of cement board. There's several different variations of this type of product. However, they're all relatively similar. A lot of it just comes down to preference. The main differences in cement board is going to be the thickness. You have a different thickness that's typically used on a wall versus on the floor. So this is the thicker profile one, which is a 7/16. If I turn it to the side here, you can see that it's a little bit thicker here. This is the cement board that's typically used on the walls. And so one thing that is true about all types of cement board is that whenever you try to cut them, they create tons of dust. This product is very porous, and when you put a saw to it or something like that, or even just a knife or any type of cutting tool, it has the potential to create tons of dust, which goes everywhere. And so if you're going to be doing this type of installation, let's say you're going to be doing a tile job in a kitchen or bathroom, it's going to be in a condo that does not have a readily accessible exterior area where you can cut, or you're going to be installing in a apartment, or you're going to be installing in some type of multifamily or townhome situation where units are very close together, and you really can't set up a cutting station that is a ideal distance away from the property to minimize dust. And you're going to want to pay attention to the 4 cutting techniques that I demonstrate today. They're not all perfect. I am going to show you the traditional way that this backer board has been cut in the past so that you can see for yourself how much dust it actually creates. And then we're going to show you 3 other techniques that you can use to cut down on the dust. Each one of those is going to be slightly different, and they're going to be varying levels of difficulty. So next, let me show you the tools, and let's jump into getting some work done. We're going to have some fun today. This is a standard circular saw. This is the tool that has been traditionally used to cut cement backer board over the years. However, the downside of using a tool like this is that it creates tons of dust. And part of that is due to the fact that the blade spins, and just that motion alone creates an ideal scenario to kind of whip up dust and throw it everywhere, which is less than ideal when we're talking about a dust that can be potentially harmful to us. So let me show you the next tool. The next tool we're going to talk about is a razor knife, which creates a lot less dust than a circular saw. However, one of the major trade-offs is that you're going to have to physically exert yourself a lot more, meaning that you're going to first of all need a very sharp blade on this, and you're going to have to apply constant pressure as you score the surface of the cement board to get it ready to be able to snap it cleanly. On to the next tool. So the next tool that we're going to be discussing and demonstrating is going to be a jig saw. So a jig saw is going to be a mechanical method for cutting cement board. It does create a little bit of dust, but once again, it is a much better situation than cutting with the circular saw. The trade-off is that it's going to work a lot slower. So the next tool that we're going to discuss and demonstrate here shortly is the cement shear. Now, this tool creates very little dust. The major trade-off with a tool like this is that it's very specialized, which means that it is one-dimensional in the fact that it can only really be used to cut cement board. So if you're not going to be cutting backer board, you're not going to be cutting cement siding, then this tool doesn't have very many other uses. So now that I've introduced all the tools, let's jump into the demo. All right, folks, so we're going to start with the first tool, which is going to be the razor knife. The first thing I'm going to do is come over here and make a line with my square to mark off exactly where I want to make my line. Just going to use my pencil here real quick to mark off where we're going to use this thing. So here's the line here that I just marked with the pencil line. We're gonna run along here with the razor knife and cut it off. All right, so now that I've scored this board thoroughly, now I'm gonna put it right here along the edge of the board underneath it. And I'm just gonna try to snap it off clean. So now I've broken that down. You can see here that it's not perfect. It's better on this end, but it's harder to cut it like this when I'm shooting at this angle so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So it's neater down here, but now that we've got it like this, now I'm just gonna take that blade and then I'm just gonna run it through here. All right, so now I've got it in there. I'm just gonna put it down in there in that groove and just separate it. Okay. All right, so now I've got that. This kind of just pop away. Got most of it broken through there. I need to come back over here and run that knife through there just a couple more times and knock that off. Okay. And so there's the piece that we cut off there. It is not the prettiest, but we got it off of there. So that is one way, that is the razor knife. Let's jump to the next technique. Now we're moving on to the second tool for cutting cement board. This is our jig saw. And as I said before, this tool creates a lot less dust than the circular saw. However, the main trade-off is that it moves much slower. I've got a relatively aggressive blade on here right now. So let's just see how this performs. I've already marked my line here, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so I just made my first cut with the jig saw, and as you can see, this made a much more even, smooth cut from start to finish. So that tool was much better than trying to score it with the razor knife. It was a lot less manual labor from a effort standpoint. As you can see, my line here is a very, very smooth. Not a factory finish, but it's 1,000 times better than the way that the razor knife left it. Okay, so now we've got two tools left to cut with. If you've been paying attention, we've already cut with the razor knife and the jig saw. So what we've got left now is going to be our circular saw as well as our fiber cement shears. Now the reason why I've left these two tools last is because typically these are the two tools that pros and DIYers are going to be selecting between. So it's going to be either the circular saw or it's going to be the shears, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I want you to be able to clearly see the difference that you can expect to get with regards to results and the overall dust that's created. We're going to start with the circular saw because this has been the traditional way that this type of product has been cut in the past, and we'll show you exactly why you want to look for an alternative. So I'm going to mark off again, and then we'll go ahead and get into cutting again. Let's jump back into it. So as I said before, using the saw creates a ton of dust, so you want to make sure that you got the proper PPE. I'm going to put on a face mask here to help combat the dust. right, so there's our third tool. That is a circular saw. As you can see, it creates a ton of dust. Luckily we're outside and most of it blows that way, but it's still better to have something that creates less dust. Don't do like me and work without goggles. I do have my glasses on, but I should have had goggles on when I did that. As you can see, there's just still dust and debris going everywhere. And if you can look here closely, you can see there's fiber cement debris that kind of was created as that saw was spinning. But as you can see, it still creates a very smooth cut. And one other thing that I wanted to add with regards to using a circular saw to cut cement board is that they do make a specialized blade for cutting this type of board. However, it is $40 and it is in the store, and that's where it will remain as far as I'm concerned. So that's 3 tools down. We've got 1 more left, which is the cement board shears. Let's do that one next. Okay, so now we've reached the 4th and final tool that we're going to demonstrate today, the cement board shears. So let's see how these do compared to the other 3 tools. So there's our 4th cut with our cement board shears. As you can see, it does leave a bit of the plastic string material on there because it's kind of pinching its way through, and it does kind of crush a little bit of the edge up if you're not very careful. There's a little bit more of a learning curve with using this tool than the other tools because you've got to try to make sure that you're keeping the blade of the tool resting flat on the surface of the cement board. So that's something you have to watch out for. After going through these 4 tools at the same time, my wrap-up thoughts on these are such. This tool does a great job of creating less dust and cutting very quickly. I still feel like the circular saw cuts the fastest. The razor knife cuts the slowest and is the most labor intensive. And the jig saw cuts a clean cut and cuts moderately fast and has more uses than this tool right here. So if you're going to be doing this as a DIYer, I would suggest probably looking at using a jig saw. If you've got money to blow, then you may want to consider getting a set of these, but the jig saw cuts just as well, if not better than these in my opinion, and you've got other uses that you can use it for in the future. So it's not as specialized as a tool as this is. Circular saw, I would probably shy away from, since we know that this one has some health risks associated with cutting this type of board, and you saw the amount of dust that it creates. All right, so now that we've cut up the cement backer board to smithereens, hopefully you've got a good idea of which tool is gonna work out best for you. Hopefully you found this video informative. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.